Well, I've been running this machine for a few years, and it's been really good. It's a Bobcat 425 2008, and ever since I've owned it, I guess it's 2.5 years or so, it's had a little bit of slop in the swing, you know, when you're swinging back and forth, and it's gotten worse and worse. And well, it's also developed a small hydraulic leak right there, and so I finally took some time to look into it. Check it out, what happened. Grade 8 bolts, they're hardened steel. So what's given is actually the body of the machine where they've been threaded in or tapped in. You know, because those are like that one I can actually pull out. Check this out. Yeah, well, that's no good. See. Yeah, and there's a bolt missing back here. Interesting. I remember when I bought the machine, the guy said it has a new swing pump. He said swing pump. And I was like, well, swing pump, like, well, I don't, anyway. Green, no, only slightly more now, but I believe that what he was talking about is this. This is new. Here we've got a washer zip tied to this line. Somebody's put these zip ties on here. It's green to green, clear to clear, and then like a purple, oh, yellow to yellow, like a purple to purple. So yeah, somebody's already done this, and that's how they labeled the hoses. So that's actually quite convenient because I need to do that right now. Big grunt, right. Oh, I'm gonna break something here. Yeah, it's gotta be hard on a few things. drill and tap above this. This is the swing bearing. So in back behind this grease here is the ball bearings and everything that the house rides on. And the outer race of the bearing is underneath these two holes. So the outer race of that bearing is underneath those two holes, meaning that if I want to tap these out fully to get a good grab with my bolts, I actually have to pre-drill and tap into the race a little bit, just to allow the tap to go past. Yeah, here's one of the original bolts. So for comparison, these are considerably bigger, 5/8 fine thread. That requires a 37/64 drill bit. Couldn't get one of those, so 36/64 is the same as 9/16. Slightly smaller, which is actually better because the way I've got to drill this, I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of wobbling and I'm going to chew out the side of the hole a little bit. I cleaned up the mating surface down here and did a little cleanup. Got it ready. So, and I threw a bunch of grease down on that gear there because it's a good chance to throw it in place. So let's wrestle that thing down in that hole. Okay, got that one started. Alright, so that's the 6 or 4 bolts across the back that I redid are all in. A bit of fight, I had to kind of jack up and tip this motor and everything to get the bolt started. It didn't line up exactly where it was, but it didn't push it up against the ring gear any further. It actually slid it slightly back. And so these holes wouldn't have lined up, which I kind of assumed they wouldn't. So that's why I just pre-drilled them with the 9/16 right here. But they do line up, but as you can see, it's kind of tight to this side of the hole. And that's because the motor's slightly moved over. But so if I had tried to tap these in place before when I did the other ones, there's no way they would have lined up. So let's do it now. not be a perfect way to keep everything clean, but I think it's definitely better than not doing anything at all. So I'm a little worried that I mangled these threads a little bit. The camera froze when I was putting that motor back in. Just have a look. Oh yeah, maybe a little bit, but we'll see if it'll wind on there. The orange one's got to go on first. What's that, white? Yeah. Okay. Mangled the threads on it pretty good. But before I go playing around with the file, trying to clean those up, let's just try ramming it on there. That's loose. I may have to take this one back off to tighten that. Makes you wonder if that's what was leaking from the start. Maybe not, but I think there's a pretty high likelihood that's what was going on, because that shouldn't have been that loose. And we'll torque that one to 300 foot-pounds. Look at that. How about a 3/8 ratchet? That's all it really needs. Tight. Hand right where I need to get the wrench in order to get that in place. Sometimes you gotta go backwards to go forwards, eh? This might be one of those scenarios. This bolt here, I didn't really, it kind of, it didn't seat down properly. I didn't obviously tap it deep enough. And then one of these back bolts that I used, one of the old ones, it didn't really hold very well. So two of those bolts are kind of compromised. And here I used lock washers. Because I could, I had the room, right? But where those four back bolts are, it was above that bearing and like the Slew bearing. So I didn't really have the room, so I used those bolts without washers because it gave me a bit more grab. It was about 7 or 8 of those fine threads. I don't want to revisit this. That was a bit of a job. So I'm thinking if I just run a nice bead of weld right here, then I shouldn't have to revisit this. And if I absolutely had to, you'd be able to cut that out. It's not too hard to get to. Yeah, it's funny driving around on a machine with no floor, but I figured while I had this opened up, hindsight being 2020, I probably should just clean this out before I got at this, but anyway, there's that weld in the light of day. It looks alright, and that should be cheap insurance. And yeah, I just got this kind of roughly cleaned out and loosened up a bunch of dirt, but I figure I'll give the pressure washer a run in there. You'd think it would need to be like this. There. Well, I had to step away from this one for a little bit. There's a bit of snow and stuff to do, but yeah, let's get back at it. I want to pick something heavy up and swing it around, make sure she's working good.